70 pas tout.
What up, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, we're back. Robert's back this week. I decided to give him another chance, even though I fired him last week. But he's back, and in the role of co-pilot as ever.
What's going on, everybody?
Yes, and yes, we are doing a pre-tape because again, Robert, it's always Robert's fault, and so we're doing this pre-tape for him because of work stuff, and I don't know exactly how to transition from that, but like I have a beard.
It's this time of year gets pretty crazy at work, and been pulling a lot of late nights recently.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was out last week, but now I'm back. We're doing. We may have to do a few of these new not live episodes, but we're still going to be putting stuff out. We're still going to be doing the movie reviews. We're going to do all that fun stuff. Come hell or high water.
Or whenever I feel like it.
That too.
All right, so let's get this conversation started. So I guess let's start off with your weekend. Since it's been a while since the people have seen you, so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure most people were hoping that I was dead.
You wouldn't believe how many hate emails I get about you. It's like, when are you gonna cut the dead weight, Andrew?
I know it's so there's gonna be some.
Robert, could you flick your device because you're out of focus? There it is. Now people can see your hideousness.
Yeah, I know. I'm a gargoyle. Weekend was okay. Well, since this past week, mainly just work. I've been waiting on a new router. I've been having I had a router, wireless router, die on me. I had one come in that was not the one I was thinking it was, and so I had to return that. And now I should be getting another one tomorrow. Hopefully, it's the right one, and then I'll actually have better access to my internet. And so I've been dealing with that. I've been working a lot, and kind of on a nerdy note, I finished a game I've been playing for the last 2 months that I've put in about 200 hours in. I beat the new Dragon Quest XI, so I was pretty happy about that. Got the Platinum Trophy, and it was a great game. So overall, things are going well.
That's good. My weekend was pretty relaxed. I didn't go out or do anything. I basically, well, even though, if I really wanted to, I could have gone out, but, I was being a little bit responsible and working on the latest podcast episode, which has dropped. Yeah, it was a little late because usually I have it scheduled to upload, but for some reason I was having rendering problems, and so it wasn't able to be rendered out in time. But it is uploaded now and it is available, so do check it out.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be for the new episode dropped yesterday, and it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be an interesting episode. For you get to know our special guest Dan a little bit better. He's been on the podcast a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Really interesting guy. He's one of my best friends in the world, and I think it was a fun discussion. I learned a lot, so hopefully you guys will find it enjoyable.
Yeah. For those of you who would like to know a little bit more about Judaism and or the Jewish faith, and learn more about the nuances between different denominations. And believe it or not, there are denominations, just like in Christianity. There are uh, differing viewpoints and interpretations of scripture and all that stuff that you kind of think of more towards Christianity, because for those of you out there might be surprised to learn, but Judaism isn't a monolith. The Jewish people aren't a monolith. They don't all believe the same thing, and
Right.
so on and
It's
so forth.
it was very fascinating to learn.
All right. Well,
What's going on with you, Andy?
I mean, other than my new beard.
Yeah. How long have you been growing that, Andy?
This is only a couple of weeks, actually. I'm actually a pretty hairy dude. When you really get down
Yes,
to
right,
it, I'm a pretty hairy dude.
You're not the typical like Korean guy that would take him maybe 4 years to grow.
Right? Yeah. It's funny because this past Sunday I ran into this guy I know. I mean, I've known him since he was very young. I used to I was his Bible study teacher at one time. And I saw him, and he had kind of a wispy mustache and beard. And then I kind of commented, no shave November, and he's like, yeah, it basically took me from the start of the month to grow this much. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, this was 2 weeks.
Yeah, mine's been about probably a week and a half.
Yeah, and I'm also unique, in terms of being a Korean, because I can actually get my to connect,
Oh, nice.
I can actually grow a proper goatee.
No, there you go.
Yeah, yeah. My mom, my sisters, any woman, not every woman, but a very vocal minority of women in my life do not like my beard.
Well, it's fine to me.
Yeah, I know. They just don't understand. But it's funny because some women, they're like, oh, it looks really good, but then I guess specifically women in my family and relatively close women in my life don't like it. They prefer the more clean cut kind of look. But I mean, when you can, when it looks good on you, how you gonna hate a player?
Exactly. Me, I kind of just stopped giving a fuck, so I'm just kind of letting everything grow for a little while.
I'm sorry, what was that last bit?
No, I was saying I'm not doing it for the no shave November thing. I just stopped giving a fuck for a little while, so I'm just gonna let everything grow.
Right. I mean, I only bring up No Shave November because we're in November, but I just
True.
I haven't grown out my beard in a really long time, and so what better time than during the fall winter season?
Yeah. I was just kind of I just stopped giving a damn about my appearance, and we'll see that. Fuck it. I'm 32 years old, and yeah, I'm just gonna, whatever. See what happens.
Yeah, just try the beard. Just see what happens. Just see what happens. That's all. All right. I guess this episode we don't have too many news-related topics. I mean, maybe we might get into I guess we could put in a few hot takes in between.
True.
But
I say we do a sandwich of our movie reviews. We start with one and then we end with the other one.
Okay. Then should we start with the one that we missed last week?
That would be that's where I would start.
Okay. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, the movie that we're gonna review last week was Lincoln. The movie, about the 16th president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. It goes into it doesn't talk about, the movie isn't about the Civil War per se. There aren't any like big battle scenes, but it's more about the lead into like what is it, the Reconstruction era,
Yeah, it's kind
and
of you see a lot of the behind the scenes of what's going on in Washington, and like and kind of trying to deal with the war, and like all that is being fought within like the within Congress and
mhm,
Senate and all that.
mhm. Right, and so it's President Lincoln is trying his best to get the 13th Amendment ratified to end slavery for all time within the United States. And faced with many challenges. An opposition party within the Democrats, and some within his own party because of what's that word I'm looking for? Pragmatic reasons.
Right, right.
And so I think this movie does a really good job in uh, kind of revealing the kind of uh, character that Abraham Lincoln has, and that he sees because he sees this problem of slavery, and the Emancipation Proclamation, that was like a band-aid, and it was really more of a wartime provision,
Right.
and more of like what's like more of a symbolic gesture, saying if you escape the South, then you will be granted freedom in the North. But it was a wartime provision, and after the war, what was going to happen then? I think that's the big uh, thing. That's the big issue at the heart of this movie.
Right. Because there's a lot that I did not like about the movie, but I would say that Daniel Day-Lewis stole the show for one. I thought his portrayal of Lincoln was just phenomenal.
Yeah, really.
Reading the background of what he did to prepare for that role, I had to give a lot of respect because he did his research and he really worked hard to get the role right, I think. And you could really feel not only the turmoil that he, because there was really no win scenario for Lincoln at that time. There's no one really liked Lincoln all that much. Not unlike today's time almost, where there's a lot of division within the country. Not that we're having states secede or anything like that, but it's a very divided country right now. But like back then, there's not a lot of people that thought much of Lincoln. They hated some of the things that he was doing, and really wherever he looked, I mean, it was like people were gonna die, regardless of no matter what choices he made. And so it was just more like, well, what's the quickest way to get it over with, get this war done, get these get this legislation through, and begin the healing process. And you feel that turmoil. You also feel just kind of the sadness and depression that he felt, because at that time one of his sons had died, and so that weighed very heavily on him. And so he's trying to care for his wife and himself, and it's just you feel the pressure. Daniel Day-Lewis really presents that pressure that Lincoln felt throughout the film. So that, in that sense, it was, I think, really that part was awesome. And it doesn't tell the whole, because we always think of the Civil War and slavery and kind of the abolishment of slavery are always kind of connected, and that's true. That was definitely. A part of the reason why there was a war, though that didn't come into being until later in the war. Whereas there was a lot of other factors involved, and I'm not in I'm not one of those people who's like, no, Civil War wasn't fought because slavery and kind of the those type of people. I'm just saying that it's a much more complicated and messy time that we don't that there was a lot of other things involved that people don't really read about or think about when it comes to the Civil War.
Right. I think the issue of slavery as being the reason for the Civil War was more of like a superficial kind of reason. It was like that's the candy coating around like the actual real reason, when the real reason was just like to try to keep the country together.
Right, and see that initially that's why from what people don't realize is that wasn't the initial reason for. I mean, slavery did play a part in it. Like because back in those days there wasn't this giant bureaucracy federal government that was there. It was the states kind of were countries of their own. And yeah, there was this kind of like overarching federal government, but it wasn't what it is today.
Right.
And so when this idea, and as the country was starting to move forward and expand west, the question became is because there were states that had no slavery, and then there were states that did. And the concern was that, like, do we want to continue that practice in these new states or not? And that was where a lot of the big divide was, and they felt that the South, the southern states felt that it was like the federal government was overstepping its bounds, which at that time it technically was, because that's not how things had worked up to that point. The states had been allowed to choose for themselves how they would govern themselves underneath the federal government. So that was one of the main issues. There were some economic factors, there were some other things involved, but that was a lot of them felt that the federal government was overstepping its bounds. And so when kind of that final straw that broke the camel's back ended and states started to leave, and Lincoln was trying desperately to keep everyone together, but couldn't. And so the South initially, they had better generals at the start of the war, and they had much better reasons, to fight for, they had much more reason to fight.
Right.
They felt like their way of life was being destroyed.
Right, because it was the arguments of states' rights versus sovereignty of the federal government, and the issue when the issue of slavery did come up, it was like, well, what about states' rights? I thought we as as a state can decide what rules that we are the localities will be responsible for. As opposed to having the federal government come in and tell you what you can or cannot do within your state.
Right. And so the other thing involved too is, we kind of think of a lot of it's like, oh, everyone from the South, they're just racist bigots, and like, yeah, there was obviously like people like that down there, but you look at but there was a lot of people that were in the South that were not they weren't slaveholders. They were actually, in a sense, they didn't like slavery, but they fought for the South. I can't remember if it was, I think it was Stonewall Jackson. He wasn't like pro-slavery, but he didn't want to fight against what he just thought were his countrymen.
Right.
Which was
neither was Robert E. Lee.
Right.
Robert E. Lee wasn't in favor for slavery, and but he was loyal to his home state of Virginia. Yeah. And Virginia was pulling out of the Union, so he's like, oh well, as much as I'm an American, I have to protect my home, and and I think Lincoln even asked him to lead the army, the Union Army, but he turned it down. Not because he was some racist racist slave perpetuator of slavery, but he's just like, well, no, well, I'm sorry, but I got to defend my my home state.
Right, and it's an unpopular opinion, but both those guys were actually very good men. It was just they kind of get vilified because they fought for the Confederacy
Right.
instead of the United States.
Mhm.
And so for a lot of the early parts of the war, the Union was getting their ass handed to them because they had really shitty generals,
Right.
and it wasn't until Lincoln got a drunkard named Ulysses S. Grant to finally kind of match wits with Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson, and they kind of rallied around late in the war around this idea of the freeing slaves, and it gave people a purpose to fight, and it was also a realization that we have them outnumbered. We have all this other stuff. It's going to be bloody, and we're just at every stop we are going to pound them into the ground. And if they're they have, I think they were outnumbered, like the Union outnumbered them maybe like 3-1 or something like that. It's like if we lose 2 guys to every one of theirs, we're going to win this war. It's going to be bloody. It's going to be nasty, but it's going to be the quickest way to end the war. And I think once they had Grant in command of the army, that was kind of how the war was won.
Right.
I
think we're getting too much into history and not about the movie. So
okay. So anyways, one thing I wanted to say too about the movie was I felt it did show that not everyone in the Union was pro abolition, and there was a lot of people who were kind of against voting for the 13th Amendment.
13th Amendment.
Yeah. There was a lot of people that were not for it, but they were in the Union. So we kind of do this kind of the Union was good and the South was bad, but there was people like that on both sides. There was people that it was a very complicated issue at the time.
Right. Because I think the best illustration of that was that meeting that Lincoln took. I forget who it was, but there was some sort of dispute, and they came to see the president for him to kind of step in or pull some strings to help resolve the issue. And so he asked whether or not they be for ratifying the 13th Amendment if it meant ending the war tomorrow, and then they said yes. And then I believe it was the Secretary of State who then asked them, it's like, well, if we could end the war tomorrow but without ratifying this the 13th Amendment, would you be in favor? And they said yes also, but then they also kind of slipped in a racial epithet, which kind of proved made the point to the president. It's like, oh, not everyone is doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it more as a pragmatic means of just ending the war, which has been going on for I think 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and I think they captured that part well, because I think that's something that people need to see, that it wasn't we kind of look at it as that monolith, North good, South bad,
right?
And that wasn't the case. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think they portrayed that well. Daniel Day-Lewis to me stole the show. The rest of the movie felt very. The rest of the movie felt very hokey to me though. There was a lot of these weird longing glances and kind of the cheesy 80s film where they're all clapping for
in respect to Daniel Day-Lewis, he was offered this part 3 times, and then he turned it down 3 times, and it wasn't until he himself did the research about Lincoln that he finally they came back to him one more time, and then he finally agreed to do the movie, because he felt he didn't. Because Daniel Day-Lewis said himself that he didn't think that he would do a good job of portraying the president, Um, but after he began his own research about it, he then felt confident enough that he'd be able to portray the president and do it justice.
Right. Yeah, and I think he did a whale of a job on that playing Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because he even he read through all his correspondence. He read all the correspondence that was written to Lincoln. He people that had kind of were talking about Lincoln. He even I mean, we don't obviously have any audio of what Lincoln sound like, but
there was a lot of
Kentucky, and he studied that Kentuckian dialect from that time, and kind of was able to kind of facsimile what Lincoln may have sounded like.
Right, but there was also very detailed description of how he sounded and all this other stuff.
Exactly, he went through that, and I think he did a great job with it.
But I think, but also I think the majority of the cast they had, did a pretty, good job as well. I think Tommy Lee Jones as Senator Thaddeus Stevens, it's kind of funny because it's kind of hard to know. At least in Tommy Lee Jones' case, how much of it is he trying to bring of the actual person or the character versus how much of it is himself.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's weird because I think he gets cast as he gets cast as characters that I think might be fitting for his actual personality.
Right.
And so,
and I think that was the difference for me too, is where I felt where it wasn't. Obviously, it was a star-studded cast. There was a lot of big stars in there, but for some of them, I felt like it wasn't. Not that they phoned it in per se, but just Daniel Day-Lewis just to me stole that. You could tell he worked much harder at it than some of the others did.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
Not that Tommy Lee Jones did a bad job. Not that what's his face as Robert Todd Lincoln did a bad job.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, yeah, but
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Thank you. Not that Sally Fields did a bad job, but it was. I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's safe to say that Daniel Day-Lewis embodied Abraham Lincoln.
He overshadowed everybody.
Yeah. Exactly. All right.
So I would say I'm gonna give it a 2.5 to 3-star review, just because you'll see what I'm talking about when you watch it. There is a lot of just some of the hokiness it's too much for me, but I loved, like I said, it captured the complications that the war had, how the North felt about everything going on, about the 13th Amendment, and they captured the struggle and the pressure that Abraham Lincoln was under during the war. And I think that was that to me is what gives it that kind of I would say lean to 3-star in that case. But yeah, I'm gonna go 2.5 to 3 stars on this one.
All right. Okay, then I'd give it 3 stars. It's a good movie. It's if you want to see Daniel Day-Lewis at his absolute best, then watch this movie.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah, because similarly to you, there were a lot of hokey kind of saccharine kind of moments, especially during the vote, and
that was the part that I would just it kind of pissed me off a little bit.
Yeah, and there's that there's that one senator who said he wasn't gonna vote yes on it, but then in the midst of the vote he he switches sides and he triumphantly says he's yes, and all of his Democratic colleagues are booing him or throwing papers at him, and traitor and stuff like that.
But, yeah, exactly. That was like, I'm gonna say that probably didn't happen like that, but well, who knows?
Yeah, and then there's like that one senator who was like morally conflicted, and like because he was a Democrat, I believe he's a Democrat. And he's like, and then he kind of like whispers, like he's like yes, and then like what? And then he like gets up, he's like, I said yes, and it's like oh come on.
Well, part of me also kind of thought of was it Dinesh D'Souza's documentary through that, where it's like it wasn't like every Democrat that voted no on that, but only
Right.
Democrats voted no.
Right? Yeah.
And that is on the record too. That wasn't just like some
Yeah, it's completely. It's
like,
it's. You can totally
that's
look
public
it up.
record.
At the records of Congress, you could you can totally look it up and you could verify. Not all Democrats voted no, but Democrats did vote no.
Yeah. But yeah, it's that the last scene, the vote scene, was kind of that's where it lost a lot of the stars for me. I was just like that whole scene just kind of, it's like, you got to be kidding me. This is ridiculous. It felt like one of those like really like cheesy 80s films.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, like
it
was very. It was almost like Dead Poet Society at the end where they like Captain, my Captain. They stand up on top of their desks.
Exactly. That was the movie I was thinking about. I couldn't remember the name, but yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I mean, even though like the part of me still loves that scene from that movie, and like it still gives me like the feels.
In that movie.
In that movie, yes. All right. So that's our review of Lincoln. 2.5 to 3 for Robert, 3 stars for me. Go watch it. Go watch it. If you want, come back and leave us a comment letting us know how you felt.
And tell me how racist I am for all my thoughts on the Civil War.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because we did kind of get into the weeds and like talk more about like the actual history versus the movie, but.
Well, because obviously the movie isn't really, because we've been doing war movies kind of in celebration of Veterans Day. That's kind of the theme for the month, and obviously this movie, we had initially thought of doing Glory, which Andy and I both love. But we decided to do something a little different when it came to the Civil War, because I hadn't seen Lincoln, so I really wanted to see it. And so I wanted to talk at least a little bit about the war, kind of
from the political side, as opposed to like the the actual warfare. Right.
But yeah, a great way to transition from Lincoln is let's talk a little bit about Thanksgiving.
All right, Thanksgiving.
Do you have any family traditions or anything that you'd like to do, Andy? Are you a big turkey guy? You guys do something different?
For the most part, we keep a pretty traditional Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It's funny because for those of my Korean brothers and sisters out there, you'll understand this. Like the only way we call it like Korean Thanksgiving by the mere addition of kimchi at the table.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's a pretty, or at least my family, it's a pretty standard traditional Thanksgiving. Turkey, dressing, stuffing, mashed potatoes, yams, ham, sometimes a dinner roll, sometimes some cornbread.
Oh shit, that's right. I got to think about sweet potato. I got to remind my mom to get sweet potatoes for Thursday.
Yeah, so
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so it's a pretty traditional Thanksgiving meal that we have. In terms of traditions and things that we do, not really. My family isn't like a big sports family. I mean, we'll watch the Super Bowl, we'll watch the NBA Finals, we'll watch the Super Bowl. But yeah, we're not, we don't really follow teams. We'll watch, we'll watch the game on Thanksgiving just because it's the game on Thanksgiving. Or we'll watch the things, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. But that's about it. Uh, uh, we usually have like a big like family gathering, extended family and such. But this year we're not going to be doing that. You know, uh, a lot of my family, they decided to make other plans, or go to in-laws this year, or what have you. And so we're just gonna, my immediate family, we're just gonna have something, and just offer any of the family members that didn't have plans to come over and have a regular Thanksgiving meal.
That's cool. One other thing. So A, how do you like your turkey? And B, what's your favorite thing for Thanksgiving, like to eat on Thanksgiving?
What was that last bit?
What's your favorite thing on your Thanksgiving plate? Like what thing do you like the most?
Well, how do I like my turkey? Is cooked pretty thoroughly. But my favorite part though is dark meat.
Okay, so you like the dark meat.
Yeah, but just because since I've been alive, I can't remember like remarking about the turkey. It's just like it's turkey. It's just a bigger chicken. For the
True.
most part.
Well,
Yeah, dark meat is like whether on a turkey or on a chicken, dark meat is always my favorite.
yeah, because I wasn't sure if you were like an oven roasted guy or if you were a like a deep fried turkey or.
Oh, see, that's the thing. Like, I would, maybe next year, like, I would ask to be responsible for the turkey, because I would, I want to try like different preparations. I want to try sous videing a turkey. I want to try deep frying a turkey. I want to try doing a traditional turkey, but then like switching it up a little bit, with a brine, and then also like a glaze, because most of the time it's just like uh, the way the turkey's been cooked in my family is just like seasoning it somewhat, and then just sticking it into the oven. Uh,
I will say that I personally like my favorite type of turkey. I love deep fried turkey. That is,
yeah, see,
deep
I hear
fried.
good things about it, and
Yeah,
and I would love to try it, and I would love to
deep.
try and cook it myself.
You're not allergic to peanuts, are you?
Oh, hell's no.
Yeah, deep fried in peanut oil.
Yeah, that's
Holy
the best.
crap!
That's the best oil for
Oh,
frying.
it's so good. Oh my god, it's delicious. So that's my favorite way to have turkey. That's not what I'm gonna have this year. I think we're also having ham along with the turkey.
Hmm.
But I'm actually like the favorite thing I like on my Thanksgiving plate is I love cranberries, man. Like not the canned cranberry, the spamberry as I like to call it. But
Oh yeah, like
it's like
the crayons in the can.
yeah, but I like real cranberries. Oh man, that to me is like one of my I gotta have that on my plate for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's funny because lingonberries and cranberries taste very similar.
Oh yeah, both are fantastic. I like both of
Yeah,
them.
I remember because I remember I was at IKEA one time, and I got some meatballs, and and then I got the lingonberries, and I was like, dude, this tastes like cranberry sauce.
Although yeah, Thanksgiving too for our family isn't very it's not that it's not an important holiday, but there's been a lot of Thanksgivings I've missed. Like last year, I went to work, so I worked for like 10 hours on Thanksgiving,
Mm.
and so I did that. We've done a bunch of other things. We haven't always had really anything. This year, though, I'm a little bit pissed because we were supposed to have prime rib this time
Oh,
for
baby.
Thanksgiving. that oh my god, my mom makes this fantastic prime rib. Oh goodness, it's so good. But because my aunt and my cousin are in town, can't do that anymore. So I'm kind of pissed off a little bit about that. I know
Why
it's
is
not a
it
real
that
problem.
you can? Why is it that you can't have prime rib when your aunt and cousin are? Are they vegetarians?
No, we just don't like them very much. So,
So yeah, let's not waste the good meat on the people that we don't like.
right. It's kind of it's not a real problem, but it kind of pisses me off regardless. I'm like, there's all this drama going on with like my dad, his sister with my aunt, and then my cousin, and it's just fuck, man. I'm so tired of it. It's just I was almost tempted to say like to kind of like lie and say I had to work and then just stay home, but I'm not gonna do that because I do kind of want to eat. So
right.
because it's one of those things. It's my one day off that I'm gonna have for a little while, and it's gonna be interesting. We'll see. Hopefully, it's not a bad Thanksgiving. If it is, I'm just gonna eat and then I'm gonna get the fuck out. But yeah, so I'm kind of pissed. No prime rib this time. I gotta wait till Christmas. I was telling mom, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. They stole prime rib from me, like, because she was asking me like, oh, what do you want for Thanksgiving? Well, I already told you what I wanted for Thanksgiving. We're not having that anymore, so whatever you want.
Those motherfuckers.
But don't get me wrong, I love my aunt, I love my cousin, their family. They're just it's just family. They're always kind of, you know how it is.
It's understandable. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, because my dad and his sister, his youngest sister, they have almost the same personality. Like they're very short tempered and hot blooded. And I remember there's this one incident over a watermelon, and and they fought over it for like a while, and for like 3 months or so, like they wouldn't even talk to each other.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, it was over something so stupid, but like they both felt like very strongly, in their positions, and because they both thought that they were right, and so they wouldn't budge they wouldn't budge an inch for each other, and then so like it blew up into a fight, and they didn't talk to each other for about like 3 months, and then my dad's older brother, my uncle, had to like intervene and say, hey, stop acting like idiots.
Yeah. That sounds like my mom's side of the family. There's always like some sort of family feud going on. And if you've ever watched an episode of Jerry Springer or Cops, and you see kind of the trailer trash that's involved, yeah, that's pretty much my family.
Nice.
So there's always someone fighting and feuding, and God knows what's going on over there. So, but thankfully that's 3,000 miles away that we don't have to deal with.
Right.
But yeah, no, nothing really. We never had any like really like knockdown, drag out fights during Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's always been kind of a pretty nice time with my family. It just it's not the. I don't really have. Our family doesn't really have traditions, to be honest. We don't really. I think like the one of the few traditions that we have is going to the LA Auto Show. That's it. I think I've missed one in 30 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so there's that. But yeah, we don't really have it. Maybe I'm always a little bit sad about that. I kind of wish that we had more of traditions, some kind of something sacred in our family that we always do together. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to wait till I start my own family for that to do that.
Perhaps.
But I think traditions are important. So
yeah, no, I'm a big traditions kind of guy. and
Well, I think that,
it's very important for like us for a lot of things. You know, chief among them, just like you know family cohesion, and then but also society building, civilization building.
right. Well, I always
That's
been, something I've shared with others, but that's why I've always been kind of jealous of some of, majority of my friends are Korean, and obviously there's a lot of traditions in Korean families
mhm,
that connects them to, past relatives, and there is kind of those sacred, uh, traditions that families follow, which is always something I've been a little bit jealous of because I just don't have that with our family. There's nothing really that connects me to the past that way.
mhm, mhm.
So maybe I'll have to start that for myself.
Yeah. I mean, I used to love New Year's because I used to get money, but now that I'm adult, I don't get anything, and I'm the one that has to give out money.
Yeah.
I'm the one that has to give out money now, and it's like, damn it.
Like fuck.
I was like, I'm struggling over here. All right, I'm not, I don't make a lot of money, and it's like it's funny because like when my nieces and nephews come and like they do like the traditional like bowing and like New Year's greeting. It's like give me money please, basically that's what I hear, and I'm just like
Yep.
I would, but I don't have any money.
Yeah.
To
It's here's your
I don't
payout.
have I don't yeah, I don't have a disposable income. If I had a disposable income, yeah, I'd be like I'd be like Scrooge McDuck and like throwing it in your face. But I don't. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
It's funny because I remember one of my cousin's husbands, like they're asking me like, oh, when are you gonna get married? I was like, well, I can't really afford it right now, and plus right now I'm building my empire right now. I'm slowly trying to build something right now, and that takes time, and
it's a
even
slow
though
moving.
I'm still looking, I still try to meet people. I still try to go on dates, but also like the quality of woman that I'm looking for is I don't know, kind of rare or specific.
Right.
Not to say that my standards are really high, but like what I'm looking for, it's pretty dang unique.
Yeah, I know, and I know exactly what you're talking about because there's a couple of problems because one, we're both kind of I think we're both kind of personality people. Like if we can't hold a conversation with that person, it's kind of whatever. Yeah, you're nice to look at, but if that's all you are, then what's the point?
Right, but just as important as conversation is, I think like if I can't stand you know if I can't stand just being in the same room with you, like in silence, then it's probably not going to work out either. Because
Yeah,
as much as I am a conversation person, I'm also like, just be comfortable just being there, without even having to say anything.
exactly. I know exactly. I feel the same way. And then the other thing too is if we're looking for someone, kind of in our age range,
Mm-hmm.
for guys, it's not as bad, but like when it comes to like girls and they're still single at our age, it's kind of like, oh man, there's got to be there's some sort of baggage there, and I know that sounds very sexist or whatever, which hey, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is what it is, but it's true. If you're still single at that age, you either got fucked over really badly by a guy that you were with for a while,
Mm-hmm.
or there's some problem, and
Or you
usually
or you're fed the lie of feminism.
I mean that's the other thing
Yeah.
too.
Where it says like
But then
you could have it all. You could have a career and a family. You just have the family later. It's like, that's not really a good idea because
yeah,
your prime baby making years are within your 20s.
yeah, I think my mom did it right. She had me very young, and then now she's been a career person since after I like left home. So I mean, it's you technically can have it both, but they're trying to do it in the wrong
Well, I think
direction.
you could have it both ways, but just not at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of the lie at that point. But the other thing is too. But then when we're looking for someone younger, it's
Mm-hmm.
like there's this huge generation gap now, and
Right.
there's where there's just a ton of girls out there that are just vapid as hell, and I just it's like, wow, I can. There's no way I can carry a conversation with this person.
And I was like, yeah, remember that? Remember when you actually had to call your buddy's house and talk to their parents? Like, what?
That's a thing.
It's like that was a thing. I was like,
Oh, Jesus Christ.
but
But
before we get into like this crazy young people sucks thing, I want to ask you, like, what are you thankful for?
What am I thankful for?
Yeah.
I mean, kind of, to be that Bible nerd, but yeah, I'm very thankful for my friends. I'm very thankful for my faith, for God, for my family, and I'm thankful for a lot of things. I'm thankful for this podcast, for the fans, the small fandom that we do have, which has been great. But yeah, there's been a lot of struggles, especially the second half of the year, on a personal level for me. But there's so many things that are just going really well, and I'm very thankful for that. And I do feel that I'm moving in a good direction, and I know that God has some great things on the horizon, and I'm very thankful for that.
Cool. I'm supposing you want me to go now.
Yeah, that's why I paused. I figured you were going to jump right in with Andy. What are you thankful for?
All right, my turn. So yeah, I'm thankful.
Oh, and I'm also thankful for beer. So that's
Yes, of course. Liquid bread. As it's
exactly.
sometimes known as. Yes, but I'm thankful for everything. I'm thankful for the good times. I'm thankful for the crappy times. I know right now it all kind of looks like there's. I mean, for me specifically, I know outside looking in, it may seem like that I'm not progressing, or things aren't necessarily happening for me. But things are happening for me things are happening for me every day.
Right.
Even though I'm constantly looking for a regular job. I have this podcast to keep me occupied and my skills sharp. Because this isn't just like me, not working regularly and just sitting, being in my pajamas all day watching TV. I'm actually doing stuff. I'm actually keeping my skill sets sharp
and learning new things.
Yeah, and I'm learning new things, and and I'm able to kind of educate myself on things things that are going on in this world, and I'm able to take my time and come up with an opinion, and hear every side, and come to my own ideas and thoughts on the matter, as opposed to just parroting what I hear, or taking other people's work for granted, because that might be that's just the starting point. I have to take it and make it my own. And so because I realize that anyone else in my similar situation would probably be living out on the street, under a bridge or whatever. But because I have supports, and I have family, I have kind of like a crash pad, and that's it'll just and it's gonna help me get back up on my feet again. And I know that there's a plan for me, and I know that there's kind of funny, because I actually started watching or rewatching the Battlestar Galactica series,
Yeah, I
and
saw that.
I haven't gotten there to this specific episode yet, but like it's it's a good, it's kind of a truism, but it's a pretty good truism, and it is just because you don't know your direction doesn't mean you don't have.
Right. I would agree with that 100%.
Right, and even if you're just even if you're just walking around aimlessly, you're still walking. And who's to say that you
Right.
won't run? You won't end up in the place that you're supposed to be.
Yeah,
And so yeah, so
definitely.
and I remember I was talking to a friend, and he was like asking me, he's like, "Oh, how's the job hunt going? How's this and that?" And I just honestly told him, I was like, "Yeah, it kind of sucks. Finding jobs is really hard right now, but I'm not too worried because I know I could be in a far worse place." And then he just kind of remarked, like, "Man, that's such a great attitude to have." 'Cause, anyone else in the anyone else in a similar situation would complain, but I'm you know uh, I'm just I'm just still waiting to see that silver lining in the cloud, in a particular cloud, and not just like any cloud.
Right.
So
That's exactly how I felt, about a year ago when I was going through my whole thing and trying to find work. And although I feel like in some ways, I've kind of compromised because I felt like I was moving in a direction. So I wanted to, I took something that I felt was going to help in that situation. And now that I'm not as sure how if that situation is gonna work, but I'm still very thankful for the job I have, and to be honest, I found that I really like it. That's the other thing. But it's kind of now I feel like I can use what I'm gaining to invest in the podcast some more, which was definitely a saving grace in that time,
mhm.
and be able to invest in it and do other things. So yeah, both of us, we could be we could have been in far worse situations if we didn't have our family and our friends kind of having our back. I'm always very prayerful for people who don't have that support network, which is kind of sad.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, man, I think that's a great attitude to have. And like I said, Battlestar Galactica, that I remember that scene too, where it's like, yeah, just because you don't have just because you don't know the direction doesn't mean that you don't have a direction.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
say
there's
we
like
all.
yeah, there's a so say we all. But yeah, it's it's funny because like I remember when it first came out, and I was watching it and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And people would ask, and then I would talk to people and they'd say, oh, what shows are you watching right now? I was like, Battlestar Galactica. And they tilt their head and like give me that look. And then I go, no, 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 no. It's really good. It's not because I know there's baggage with that name from like the '70s, which I don't even think
Right.
that it was all that bad to begin with.
No, it
You
wasn't.
know, but this is like such like a departure from what that was, because it was like Battlestar Galactica in the '70s came out like on the coattails of Star Wars, and they're definitely trying to play up that space opera motif.
Right.
But I think the reimagined version of Battlestar Galactica is so much more organic and more about it's very it's story centric but character driven.
Right.
And it's funny because like I heard it described as like a manual for like the end of the world, and it pretty much is.
Right.
Like, because like these are the things, like these are some of like the situations that that could and will pop up at after a calamity. Is like who's in charge, like do like do we even have a government anymore, like you know all that kind of logistical kind of things, where it's like how do we get food, like where are we gonna sleep, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things. They took a ton of chances with the reboot,
Yeah,
and they all worked. And it's not your run of the mill sci-fi either. It's kind of
right. Because there's not because I remember because I had like the DVD box set, and I remember one time when I was going through the series, I decided to watch it with the commentary, and then Ronald D. Moore, who this isn't his first barbecue because he was a veteran writer in sci-fi, particularly in the Star Trek franchise, and he's like, yeah, we wanted to take a very organic take to science fiction. We wanted just for it to be like the technology to be there and like be unremarkable because it's like an everyday thing within that universe, and also like we didn't want to do the Star Trek thing and do all the techno babbles like the tachyons or da 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 da. And so
Yeah.
I think that doing that, I think definitely grounded it. The reboot so much more. It made it more powerful.
Yeah, it's a great series. So should we now that we're very thankful, should we move on to our last movie review for the day?
Yes, let's do that.
I will. So our last movie review is going to be Saving Private Ryan, which I cannot believe is 20 years old already. Yeah, I remember watching it when it first came out in theaters.
Right, yeah. It's hard to imagine because it's one of those movies that you and I both grew up on.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because you think of I think of 1998. It's like, oh, it's not that wasn't that long ago. And then you look, it's like, holy fuck, it's 20 years ago.
yeah,
Holy crap, where did the time go?
exactly.
Yeah, we've been watching a lot more. This month has been a lot more recent films.
Right, yeah. But yeah,
I mean, the last 20 years.
I guess that's like a relative term now because like 20 it was 20 years ago. That's I mean, it's not from like the 30s or whatever, but
No.
or even even now like from the 70s, but 98, that was 20 years ago. Believe it or not, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Just really crazy. I was looking at that because I have some of the I was looking up kind of the some of the articles about the movie and all that. I was like, oh crap, that was 98. I can't believe it was that long ago. But so anyways, what are your thoughts on Saving Private Ryan, Andy?
well, before I get into that, just a quick recap. Yeah, so Saving Private Ryan about this Ranger unit that goes in to find this one particular man within the war because all of his brothers had died in action, and he was alone. He was a lone survivor of his family, and so kind of like a PR thing, they decided to go and rescue him so that he can go back home and so like an entire family's lineage won't be wiped out.
Yeah, and that is a real thing too, by the way.
Yeah, that was based on actual case that happened in real life. I believe it was the Sullivan brothers. They were in the Navy, and I think all but one of the brothers. No, I think all the brothers got wiped out in action.
Right, and
so,
that's part of the reason why they don't have family members on the same in the same command.
Right.
For that very reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then too, there was also because I'm an only child,
mm-hmm.
so that was I was actually I could choose if I wanted to volunteer and go to combat, I could have done that, but
mm-hmm.
I ultimately chose not to do that because I think my mom would have been really pissed off.
Hell hath no fear, like a mother scorned.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no. So, but that is it's a real thing within the military, and that's actually why they don't have close family members stationed in the same unit.
Yeah. So they go and find him. They go and find him and save him, and along the way they do take some losses because it starts off with like a squad of like 8 or so guys,
Right.
and then two of them die in while looking for him, and so like I think that's like kind of like a theme that was kind of repeated, as like kind of like the absurdity of the objective of the mission was, to send like all these guys for one man, and I think what the a good example of that was that scene where they run into that pilot who was flying the general, and like for the general security, they welded on like extra armor to the plane, which drastically affected how the plane would function, and they ended up crashing, killing the general.
Right.
And most of the flight crew, and the pilot like remarks like all that for one man, and then like all the like the men in the squad to go look for Private Ryan is like, yeah, a lot, there's a lot of that going around.
Yeah, I definitely. It has been a while since I've seen this movie,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I noticed a lot more of those like kind of those type of scenes. I definitely captured a lot more of that where you see the yeah, like the scene you just mentioned. It's like, damn, like there's a lot of this kind of, there is some of that artistic influence in as far as the connection between these units, and but yeah, it's one of the bloodier films that we've seen so far.
Yes, yeah. Particularly like the opening scene, the storming of the beach. Still, I think one of the best openings of a war movie ever.
And that is a pretty good representation of what actually took place on Normandy.
Right. I heard actual Normandy survivors. They like had to be like they walked out of the theater because it was just like so like realistic. Like they were saying like they were like they were getting kind of like flashbacks.
Yeah, it was kind of like same thing with some of the Vietnam vets. Like there's certain things that just kind of like they put them right back in that situation, and
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that with those Normandy survivors, like they were right back there. It's from now it's 70 years ago, but it's man, like back then it's like 50 years ago, and it's like they're right back in the war.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of it was a gruesome battle.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, had we lost that though, I don't think we would have had a harder time winning that war. That was us winning that battle really put us in the fight.
Right, and yeah, that was like our one shot because we didn't have that many men for that particular action. I forget what the amount was, but it was like there was like they were considering different sites too, or like whether they were going to do like a multi-prong attack or whether they're going to just like put it all into one action, and they immediately dismiss the multi-prong attack because there weren't enough men to field like all those different positions.
It's funny. So to kind of, so sorry, we're diving a little bit into the history here,
Yeah.
because I've been watching some other like movies on my own time, that not necessarily with this, but because I watched Patton this weekend too, and you do see where Patton gets, he knows like kind of because the Normandy invasion was kind of the brainchild of Dwight D. Eisenhower, along with others, but he
Yeah.
and Patton was wanting to get in the fight, and he's like, hey, I already have I have some alternate plans because there's problems with the Normandy invasion.
Mm-hmm.
And he was kind of like one of the proponents, like we have to like come at it from different angles and kind of misdirect them. And ultimately, that's not what ended up happening. And you had some of the airborne divisions that were trying to go in behind enemy lines that ended up, everything kind of got fucked up.
Yeah,
Got
Foobarred.
Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, I got Foobarred. because like they
Yeah,
missed like a
Fubar.
lot of
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, a lot of the paratroopers, they were, they missed the mark, or they jumped too early, because they were taking flak, and so like they like jumped like too early, and so like
Right.
they didn't like make it to like their designated landing zones, and so
Because that was really like, yeah, that Normandy invasion. That was really our last best chance. If we didn't break there,
yeah,
I mean,
to gain a
nothing else that
foothold
we had
within
done.
Europe. Yeah, that was the best chance that we had to gain a foothold within Europe.
Yeah, because we had well, Patton kicked everyone's ass in Africa and Italy, but it wasn't. But the European front was, yeah, that Normandy invasion was key to us taking that. We might have been able to still beat the Japanese. We might have still been able. We kicked the Italians' ass, but
Yeah.
Germany was still kind of. Had we not beaten taken Normandy,
Yeah,
that would.
because the Germans still had some teeth at that time, and so yeah, so the invasion of Normandy, that was crucial for the war effort within Europe.
So yeah, I think obviously that was a great representation of what happened, and this was kind of the story was kind of sort of based on a true-ish story, but it was a fictional unit that was going in and trying to find this Private Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I forgot, it was a pretty star-studded cast.
Yeah, it was. I mean, for the time, you have like Tom Hanks, you had
film.
I'm sorry?
You had Vin Diesel in there.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Affleck's brother. That was Casey Affleck, right?
He was in that movie?
Ben Affleck. Yeah, he was the guy from Brooklyn.
No. See, that's what I thought too. No, that's Ed Burns. That's Ed Burns.
He looks like.
Yeah, I know, because I initially thought that he was Ben Affleck.
No, I knew he wasn't Ben Affleck, but I thought maybe it was his brother.
Well, no, yeah, it was Ed Burns. You had Tom Sizemore. Who else? You had early Bryan Cranston.
Yep. You had Ted Danson in the film.
Yeah, Ted Danson. You had Paul Giamatti.
Matt Damon.
Oh yeah, Matt Damon. Oh, it's hilarious because something that I learned when the actors were all put into like boot camp, to kind of like make their camaraderie seem more natural. The only person, and this was intentional, the only person that didn't have to do the training was Matt Damon, and also like the kind of animosity that the squad would feel for Private Ryan would be kind of genuine,
real.
Yeah.
Say, hey, fuck you.
Yeah,
hey,
you didn't have to do any of the crap that we had to do for this movie, you jerk.
Yes, well, it's like, and when they finally found him, and he didn't want to leave his unit behind, he's like, and the guy was I forget his name, but the guy from Brooklyn, he's like, hey asshole, we lost men trying to find you, you idiot.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
So there was that. And I also heard too that because Tom Hanks is somewhat of a historian. And this was, he's kind of was somewhat behind, like, Band of Brothers, and that was kind of his. So this,
that was
a role that he really felt very strongly about, and was such a. And I personally, I think Tom Hanks is probably one of my favorite actors. I think everything he does is generally pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
And he really, as Captain Miller, he was freaking fantastic. In this role, I think this is one of his, like, kind of the pinnacle of his, of his acting was done in Saving Private Ryan.
Right.
It was top tier stuff from Tom Hanks.
Right. Oh God, I was gonna say something. Thanks a lot, Robert, you asshole.
I know.
Oh God, no. Oh, it's gonna be bothering me like crazy. Tom Hanks.
Well, I was saying that he was kind of somewhat of a historian. He really cared about, like, how the film was portrayed. I think he was behind Band of Brothers too, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, like his production company, Playtone.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God, I almost had it again. Shit. God damn it. Oh, man. Yeah, it's in World War II. God damn it. It's so fucking annoying. Anyways. Alright, ratings time. What do you give it?
This is one of the. I have to go probably 4.5 stars on this one. It's one of those all-time great films. It portrays kind of a lot of the struggle in the European theater for World War II. All the characters are their portrayals of their characters are believable. It's a great film. You're on the tip of your toes, the edge of your seat the entire time, and it's a long movie, but man, it is not boring it whatsoever.
No, it's very engaging. It's very engaging. I agree. Yeah, and I would agree with you. Like 4.5.
Yeah, it's on the that AFI top 100 movies list for good reason. This is one of the great. It's only 20 years old, but damn, it was one of those instant classics right away.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so. I love the movie. I've probably seen it maybe like a handful of times, and you pick up new things every time you watch the movie. Like I said, I picked up some of the the artistic points that they were trying to point out, and it's kind of all these people fought and died to save this one man. And at the beginning of the film, he's Private Ryan. He's moving out. He's visiting the graves of the guys that died for him, and he's still conflicted. It's like, am I a good man? Did I, did they die for nothing?
Right.
And
and
because the last words that Captain Miller, who sacrificed so much to go and save him,
spoiler alert. Yeah, Tom Hanks' character dies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like, he grabs.
It's been 20 years, people.
Yeah. He grabs him by the collar and he says, "Earn this."
Yeah.
Earn this, and you kind of like, and you really feel kind of like from at the beginning of the film, like now you understand like why he was so conflicted. Going. I think it was probably the first time he had been to the graveyard in a while. Yeah.
It's interesting because I remember what I was going to say, but now it works even better because this specific subject came up about Tom Hanks' character saying, "Yep, earned this." Like in the middle of the movie when they're holed up in the church and Tom Hanks' character is talking with Tom Sizemore's character, and they're just talking about like all the guys that they lost previously, and they talk about this one specific guy that used to be in their unit that died, and how he went and like he would pee on other people's jackets like a V for his last name, and he was saying like, oh, like this Ryan guy better be worth it, like because I wouldn't trade 100 Ryans for one of I believe
one of him,
one of him. And like, because he was saying like, this Ryan, he better find a cure for some disease or create like a longer lasting light bulb. And but then like, the last words that like, that Tom Hanks' character Captain Miller says to him is like, "Earn this." And it's funny because initially he was saying like he had to do all these great things, like, oh, you bet, cure a disease, solve world hunger, or something, something grand. But I think like there's like a really like kind of like secret message in there, and I think it was exemplified by the question that he asked his wife. It's like, am I a good man? Tell me I'm a good man. Tell me I
Right.
led a life of consequence or of purpose. And then like you kind of like see like over the shoulder, and like you see like his kids and his grandkids, and I think that's the ultimate purpose, specifically for a man, is to specifically for a life of purpose is to you know have a family and raise them right, so and like to ensure that that like your grandkids are raised right, and so on and so forth. It's like kind of like like it's a secret lesson. It's a secret kind of wink in the nod that he did lead a good life, because he got married, he raised a family, and like now like his children are raising a family, and that's I think that's the secret message of the movie, of like of and that secret that cryptic kind of last thing that Tom Hanks' character says, like, earn this. And I think like
Yeah.
them showing like his family is like this is the proof that he's a good man, that that he took this gift. He took the gift of life that these men laid their lives down for, and then passed it on.
Right. And that was it wasn't kind of like an overt, kind of in your face thing, but the way it was done, it was like, man, it's a powerful message, that's very subtle at the same time.
Exactly, yeah, and it's crazy because I didn't even like realize it until like I
That
watched
was
it.
something new that I noticed in the film this time around that I didn't never noticed before.
Right, yeah, because because everything, everything that they show like has a meaning, and especially like when he said like, tell me I'm a good man, and then it shifts to like the view of his wife, saying like, what are you talking about? And then like, and then you see like the rest of his family is like, tell me, I've led a good life, tell me I lived a life of purpose, and then you see his family, and it's like, that's the life, that's the meaningful life, that is a life of purpose.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and then, yeah, so when I realized, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, it's such a powerful movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those must-sees. See it several times. You're gonna see something new every time you see it. Go watch it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And I think we're next for our last veteran, kind of war movie of the month. We're gonna be watching We Were Soldiers, with another Mel Gibson film. So we started with Mel Gibson. We're gonna end with Mel Gibson.
Wait, did we? What was the
Patriot?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and We Were Soldiers. Mel Gibson once again.
Yes, that's right. It's about I guess one of like the first actions that the United States took in the Vietnam War.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and I definitely have some thoughts that I'll be sharing about it, because I'm actually watching it. I'm about halfway through it right now, so I'll have some good thoughts for it for next week.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, I'll be looking for I mean, even though I've seen it a few times before, I'll be looking forward to watching it more with a more critical eye than I had previously.
Than normal, yeah. Any last thoughts, Andy?
No, none for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I guess we're already coming up. We're coming up on that hour and a half mark. So let's just wrap it up here. So thank you for joining us. Thank you. Don't forget to join us every Tuesday, sometimes live, at 8 p.m. ish. But this one for sure is going to be at 8 p.m. because it's pre-taped and it will be dropping on time. Don't forget to check out the library of other podcasts we have. The main podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions live stream podcast, and also Robert's show, Up by Up Down. Yeah, we're taking a break from that But there is a library of episodes for you to watch, from Super Mario to Metroid to
All sorts of games.
yeah, some one-off games as well. Don't forget to follow us on our various social medias: Twitter @PodcastCOJ, Instagram @CircleOfJoysPodcast. And for Robert and myself, that'll do it for tonight, and we'll see you next time.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Gobble gobble, motherfuckers.